guys, and welcome to another video about NovelAI. Before we get to it, I'd like to thank you for your continued support. As you know, all beginning YouTubers get two goals to reach 1000 sub and 4000 watch hours, and I am very glad because today we reached 4000 hours of watch time. And I'm very thankful to all 738 of you who subscribed. And if you're not subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you did. I would be personally grateful to you, and you know, all of my content will be personally devoted to you as well. Okay, now back to the news. Let's read to the post that Kurmus, the lead developer, posted in the Discord server. Hello everyone, it's time to announce that Sigurd, our finetune GPT J6B model, 6 billion parameters, is now available and active for all NovelAI subscription tiers, tablet, scroll and Opus, not just Opus tier subscription like it was at the start. If you are playing right now, you refresh the page and go to settings to ensure Sigurd is on. That was yesterday, a few hours ago. At everyone. If you wish to continue using Calliope, our much weaker 2.7 billion model, you may use the model toggle under account settings to do so. In celebration of the Sigurd release, we also want to announce the Sigurd NovelAI art contest. Create a piece of art inspired by our model, Sigurd. Whether that be your own visualization or such a legendary hero and how he assists you during your adventures in NovelAI. An artistic rendition of his likeness or whatever else comes to mind. You may also use whichever medium you see fit to create your own masterpiece. You may even act out and make a little movie in real life, but that's my suggestion. It's all up to you and we would love to see what you can come up with. Sigurd Art Contest entry period. You may enter the contest from now until Sunday, June 27th, 2021, 9 PM PT. Entry 1, submission entry per person. Submit your final entry in our newly created art contest channel on the NovelAI Discord, Discord.gg NovelAI, before the end of the submission period. Submissions should be safe for work. Submissions must be created by the contestant. Prize: the winner will receive 3 individual keys to 1 month of our high subscription tier Opus, 3 months in total. The prize is scheduled to be delivered on or about Sunday, June 27, 2021. Winner notification. Winner will be notified via Discord DM, direct message, or on or about Sunday, June 27th. If you are playing right now, refresh the page and go to settings to ensure Sigurd is on. Yes, and here are some more announcements, and more importantly, let's take a look at this part of the this new thread in NovelAI. This is basically a short announcement. This is a very important one, beta updates. A lot of stuff has been happening here. The devs keep reporting on their work, on them fixing problems and creating new features. Yes. And as you can see, I've been playing with Sigurd myself in the last few days, and I'm about to give you my short review on it. As you know, at first, when NovelAI came to be released at first, NovelAI Sigurd was not completely fine-tuned. On the day of release, it was told to be about 30% fine-tuned, and it was going to be a quick process. As we can see, it took less than a week. So yeah, and ever since a few days ago, when I purchased Opus, I've been playing around with Sigurd GPT 6B model, and I've honestly had mixed feelings. I mean, on day one, when I purchased it, I was really disappointed because, frankly, in many ways, it behaved almost exactly like Calliope. And it kept being repetitive, it kept breaking, forgetting the characters, it could not continue my suggestions. So, no matter how much I played with settings, I didn't know what to think about it at first. So, yeah, I kept playing with settings. I mean, it was clearly more powerful than Calliope. It had great memory, great context awareness. It's not necessarily related to JAX itself. It's more about the settings and the power that is allotted on NovelAI GPUs. Because those GPUs are set to remember, to check your story for longer, bigger context. As you can see here, 4 days ago, this is a subjective review of NovelAI's non-fine-tuned Sigurd. And yes, about 4 days ago, I was also playing it. I was not really convinced. It was still being quite incoherent, about on the same level as Griffin. But however, I've been playing it every day since then, and I've been playing the non-fine-tuned version, and my opinion kept changing every day. For example, 2 days ago I played it, and I played it with something quite rather specific. Let's take a look right here at NovelAI. I decided to check. I was convinced that the key to to playing NovelAI successfully, playing and writing stories has to be the world info as well as memory. I mean, this is a rather conventional story in the second person. I've been trying to create a story in the settings of the Elder Scrolls, mostly centered around Imperial City, you know, like in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. Then I tried this simple thing. I tried filling up the lore book with all sorts of quite random, mostly just completely copied from USP unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, the articles from an encyclopedia. And honestly, I can tell that it's quite nice. It's much more coherent than it was at the first day, even when I played it in a non-fine-tuned version. It definitely is much more different from AI Dungeons Dragon. I guess if I were to put it in very simple words, it's less smart, but it's more concentrated. So yes, it's objectively less smart, because Dragon is GPT-3, but sadly has been gimped by all sorts of modifications, very specific fine-tuning and training material. And I'm still not exactly sure about what kind of training material has been used to train NovelAI, Sigurd and Calliope. But so far it seems to be very interesting. It does manage to generate text in different styles, and it is much more smart than it was in the first days. Maybe it is exactly the fine-tuning that changed everything, or maybe it's another psychological phenomenon, or maybe it was me who was playing around with the settings too much. We can't know what happened back then. All I know is today it's quite coherent, and I would definitely give it a very good rating. Now, to the next point. Should we really compare it to Dragon or Griffin? I mean, honestly, we could compare it. It would be like comparing, let's say, watermelons to tomatoes. They are both elements of nutrition. They're both plants, but they're not identical. It's not like we are comparing red oranges to conventional oranges. Those NovelAI was created with a slightly different intent in mind. Even though it was created as a replacement for AI Dungeon, it was always labeled and targeted as not just a game, but also a writing assistant tool. Or sometimes the developer says it's not a game, it's only a writing assistant tool. Well, sometimes we are not quite consistent about that, are we? But that's okay. What's important is that people are happy and people are playing with it, even though it's a tool, you know. You can play with a tool, you can play with a hammer, you can play with a saw, stuff like that, you know. Yes, you can have a lot of fun with a piece of paper and a pen, of course. You can have a lot of fun in WordPad, and you can have even more fun in NovelAI, because when you're writing in here, you're not just writing on your own. You can give it a suggestion and you can continue it. And you know, right now the most fun thing is to figure out exactly how it works, exactly what you need to put in context, in author's notes, in memory. All of these things are a part of the context of the story. Yes, so once again, should we compare it to Dragon right now? Well, I already said it in simple words, like, it's less smart, but it's definitely more concentrated, more, let's say, straightforward. And of course, the context memory is bigger than the one in Dragon. In Dragon, you could still have large context memory, but you had to create a web of remember tab and world info entries in order to drag along all the necessary information that you'd like to see your characters and the storyteller would remember. And in here, it's a bit more straightforward. Yes. Another problem, though, is I was packing up a lot of information in here, in the lore book, or world info, as we're used to calling it. As you can see, I didn't put a lot of different stuff, but there's still a lot of information in here, and those are quite large articles. I noticed that the text generated much more slowly the more I put in here. So clearly, I'm not the only one with this problem. As we can see it right here, people on Reddit are asking developers, will a large story performance be improved? Basically, they've copied their story from AI Dungeon, the one with an insane amount of gameplay already, with dozens of thousands of actions in it, and NovelAI does seem to struggle greatly with very large stories, as we can see here. And it takes a lot of time for it to load, and I could notice it myself. How does AI Dungeon deal with it? Well, it simply limits the story context, not just the story context, but overall story itself. Let's see here. As you can see, this is a large story, and what loads up right here is like a very small portion, like a few dozen pages, as you will. Here I was running a psychological question on one of my favorite NPCs, the waifu, of course, and it's somewhat half correct. I mean, on a slightly different note, on a slight tangent, I think that people, the developers of AI Dungeon, keep changing it, sort of, I'm not sure if what they're doing, but maybe they're gimping it, or maybe once again it's a psychological phenomenon, we can't know. Well, we know that Dragon performs differently on different days. It may depend on our perception, or it may depend on what the developers are doing with it. Whether it's a filter, or, you know, unallocated memory that the Dragon gets. Anyway, yes, we already covered the basics of the new Sigurd model, GPT 6B, or Jax, you know. People love to call it Jax. Like the character from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, my friend loved Jax, because he had metal arms. Another tangent, sorry. Anyway, let's get to another part, a very important part. Once again, sexual scenarios. I didn't get a chance to play it for very long, but I did get a chance to compare it, and I can say that Jax is significantly much more powerful than Calliope in that sense. Yes, when Calliope could only really produce repetitive stuff, repetitive stories that ended up with pretty much nothing happening, Sigurd is so much better at creating, you know, different, quite detailed stuff. It manages to, you know, bring up stuff from real life. It's definitely capable of entertaining a human brain in that sense. And then the human brain will entertain the rest of the human body, if you will. Okay, that's not the greatest of jokes. So yeah, maybe I'll put some funny decorations right here, right now. Maybe I'll put another picture to demonstrate it. I mean, I didn't just play it, I compared it to AI Dungeon, and I can still say that AI Dungeon sort of beats Sigurd in generation of erotic stories, but Sigurd is still very good. And, well, I would have to say that Sigurd tends to create much more conventional things. It doesn't tend to take it off the tangent, and because, frankly, it hasn't been trained on choose your own story, kind of fan fiction, adventures, amateur fantasy. We actually still don't know what it's been trained on, and it personally bugs me. I wish the developers would reveal a tiny bit. Perhaps we can find out more information if we can, you know, let's say draw characters from the stories. If we were to draw characters from the stories, then we can find out where these characters appear in real-life fiction, and then we can figure out the books that NovelAI was trained on. So yeah, we covered the basics, covered my initial impressions. First, they weren't that great. Maybe it wasn't fine-tuned, maybe it was my bad luck, but then it became much better, much more coherent. I had a lot of fun playing around with the lore book. It definitely is quite good at generating erotic stories. And yes, lore book is your #1 tool in NovelAI to generate coherent stuff. More coherent stuff. Lore book and your main context. And the developers will work on large story performances. They promise they will allow us to cut out some information. Let's read it, by the way, response from the developer. GHT 901. Hi, performance for large stories is something we want to improve because it's in its current state. The website is pretty much unusable for any really large stories because I'm guessing it's going to be trying to load everything at once, and there might be files that are like literally hundreds of megabytes in size. There is no one fix for the problem, and it's going to require quite a bit of refactoring to get things working nicely. It's probably going to be a while before we can make a significant dent in improving performance. Know that we are aware of the problem and are making small steps towards fixing it. As for keep characters option, I was able to reproduce it and we'll take a look at it. Yes, if you're interested in these particular reviews, this is a review of Sigurd compared to Dragons, quite subjectively. Before it got fine-tuned, right now I'd have to say it is much better. Well, to be honest, I don't agree with everything in here, but it's not a critique of this particular review. I mentioned before that character consistency, it depends on your phrasing in world info in AI Dungeon. If you phrase it correctly in AI Dungeon, then Dragon will be almost always will be able to remember the character and their physical characteristics, even more than 60% of the time. So yeah, the input isn't your main tool of playing with NovelAI. No, it's not your main tool. It's the main tools of playing with NovelAI is the author's notes and memory, basically the context that you have to reshape manually. And then you have to give it small hints and nudges in order to take the story in your preferred direction, if you want the AI to generate exactly what you expect from it. So yeah, this has been this video. We reviewed the Sigurd Jax at its start. I'm going to admit I haven't played it too much. Perhaps I will play it sometime soon in my new, much more optimistic state, sometime on stream. And yeah, this has been it. A small news update, a small initial review of Sigurd. It seems to be very good. So until next time, guys, see you later. Sparkfinger out. Please subscribe.